Some historical facts are strange. Others are unsettling. But then there are those so dark, so absurd, that they sound made up, yet every word is true. From secret experiments on civilians to popes on trial after death, these aren't legends. These are real events that history almost buried. Number 1. In the 1960s, U.S. researchers injected terminal patients with live cancer cells. In 1963, New York physician Chester Southam injected live cancer cells into more than 20 elderly patients at the Jewish Chronic Disease Hospital without their knowledge or consent. His stated goal was to study how the immune system reacted to foreign tumors. Patients were told they were receiving standard treatment, and many had no idea they were part of an experiment. Some of the test subjects were Holocaust survivors, which only intensified public outrage when the story broke. Several doctors resigned in protest. Southam was eventually found guilty of fraud and unprofessional conduct, but he received only a 1-year probation. Cases like this helped pave the way for modern medical ethics laws, including the requirement for informed consent in clinical research. What's your take? Should researchers face prison time for this kind of violation? Would this case have been treated differently today? Number 2. In 1903, a U.S. state officially outlawed being ugly in public. Chicago's ugly law, passed in 1903, allowed police to fine or remove individuals from public spaces if they were deemed unsightly, mutilated, or disgusting. Though it sounds satirical, the law was enforced, primarily targeting the disabled, the poor, and the mentally ill. One man with severe facial scarring was removed from a streetcar by officers, while others were detained for simply panhandling with missing limbs. The law reflected a growing obsession with public decorum during the Progressive Era. While the ordinance was rarely used after the 1930s, it remained technically valid until 1974. Activists fought to repeal it, arguing that it criminalized existence rather than behavior. Its long survival shows how deeply rooted social exclusion can be even in legislation. So what do you think? Was this just a reflection of its time, or something much darker that still echoes today? Would a law like this survive a single day now? Number 3. Nazi scientists created a blood blister bomb meant to maim, not kill. During World War II, Nazi engineers designed the butterfly bomb, a small, brightly colored anti-personnel device intended to attract children and civilians. Instead of killing, it was meant to wound, slicing skin and limbs with razor-sharp fragmentation, forcing hospitals to fill with the injured. The bombs opened in midair, deploying fins that caused them to spin to the ground slowly and detonate on contact or delay. Over 1,000 were dropped over British cities during the Blitz. Civilians who picked up unexploded devices often lost hands or eyes. Some bombs had delayed fuses, making cleanup efforts especially deadly. The strategic goal was to drain enemy medical resources, lower morale, and create long-term psychological trauma in affected populations. So here's the question: should designing a weapon to intentionally injure civilians be considered worse than designing one to kill? Or is war simply beyond any moral scale? Number 4. A French aristocrat hosted a dinner inside a volcano just before it erupted. In 1823, French diplomat François-René de Chateaubriand hosted a formal dinner inside the dormant crater of Mount Vesuvius, inviting writers, aristocrats, and foreign dignitaries. The table was elegantly set, complete with silverware, wine, and musicians, all surrounded by sulfur steam and black rock. At the time, the volcano hadn't erupted in years, and the event was meant to showcase bravery and romanticism. But local residents viewed it as blasphemous. Weeks later, Vesuvius began to rumble. A minor eruption followed, killing several farmers and livestock in surrounding villages. Though Chateaubriand was unharmed, the story was used for decades as a cautionary tale about arrogance in the face of nature. Today, the dinner is considered one of the most reckless examples of 19th-century European spectacle. Number 5. The Soviets accidentally banned weather forecasts for a year. In the late 1940s, Stalin declared meteorology unreliable and bourgeois, especially after storms were incorrectly predicted. As a result, weather forecasting was banned in parts of the USSR for more than a year. Radio stations stopped announcing forecasts, and newspapers removed daily weather sections entirely. Citizens relied on folklore and personal experience to plan harvests and travel. The lack of warning contributed to floods that damaged infrastructure and crops, worsening post-war food shortages. Later, weather prediction was rebranded as patriotic science, but only after Stalin's death in 1953. It remains one of the strangest examples of ideology suppressing basic scientific knowledge with measurable human cost. Number 6. During World War I, British soldiers trained to fight with shovels. British soldiers in World War I were issued trench shovels with sharpened steel edges, meant not only for digging but also for hand-to-hand combat. In training manuals, troops were taught how to swing, jab, and slice with their shovels in close quarters. In nighttime trench raids, rifles were often too bulky or loud, making shovels the preferred weapon for silent killing. Some soldiers even customized their blades for greater damage. Eyewitness accounts describe soldiers emerging from trenches covered in blood, with bent shovels clutched in their hands. These makeshift weapons were essential in trench warfare, where sudden ambushes and confined space turned every tool into a potential weapon. To this day, the sharpened trench shovel remains a symbol of WWI's brutal improvisation. Number 7. The U.S. military secretly tested biological weapons on San Francisco. In 1950, the U.S. Navy released a cloud of bacteria over San Francisco to simulate a biological warfare attack. The test was part of Operation Sea Spray and used Serratia marcescens, believed at the time to be harmless. Within days, hospitals saw a spike in pneumonia and urinary tract infections. One man, Edward Nevin, died from complications, though the connection wasn't confirmed until decades later. The city was never warned, and the public didn't learn about the test until the 1970s. Documents revealed that similar tests had been conducted in New York, Washington, D.C., and other cities. It remains one of the most controversial examples of non-consensual experimentation on a civilian population. Number 8. The Romans used crushed mouse brains as toothpaste. Roman texts describe a mix of crushed mouse brains, powdered ash, and mint oil used to clean teeth and freshen breath. Wealthy citizens used cloth or small sticks to apply the mixture directly to their teeth. The brains were thought to contain properties that drew out decay, according to Galenic medicine. In elite homes, the paste was scented with rare herbs, while poorer Romans used soot and vinegar. Archaeologists have found skulls with visibly brushed enamel, supporting descriptions of daily oral hygiene. While the ingredients sound revolting now, the practice was surprisingly effective for its time. Number 9. A dead pope was put on trial, literally. In 897 AD, Pope Formosus was exhumed and put on trial in the infamous Cadaver Synod. His decomposed body was propped on a throne, dressed in papal robes, and defended by a court-appointed deacon. Pope Stephen VI presided over the trial, accusing Formosus of having violated church law. After being found guilty, the corpse's fingers were chopped off, his vestments torn, and the body thrown into the Tiber River. The public was horrified. Riots broke out in Rome, and Pope Stephen was soon imprisoned and executed by strangulation. The event remains one of the most grotesque and surreal moments in Vatican history. Number 10. Japan's World War II balloon bombs reached the U.S. mainland. Between 1944 and 1945, Japan launched more than 9,000 balloon bombs made of paper and hydrogen, designed to float across the Pacific and explode in North America. Around 300 reached the U.S. and Canada. In one tragic incident, a woman and 5 children were killed in Oregon while on a church picnic, the only World War II fatalities on U.S. soil. The U.S. government suppressed news of the attacks to prevent panic and deny Japan confirmation of success. Many balloons were found intact in forests and fields. It wasn't until decades later that the public learned how close these devices came to causing mass damage. Today, fragments of the bombs are still occasionally discovered in remote areas.